Long overdue podcast, and I'm so glad to have my good brother, friend, coach in the podcast today. So obviously today's podcast, we're just going to be talking to Opio, just finding out just how he's been going, how his business been going, how life's been going. But most importantly, we want to get tips and tricks from him about how we can level up our game. So if you don't know, the podcast is called Motivated to Lift. And when we look at the definition of lift, it's about moving from one level to the next. And we're hoping that we can get some nuggets from Opio to take us to the next level. So without further ado, Opio, thank you for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. And I'm quite excited because this series sounds pretty good. And again, grateful to be your first guest. And yeah, man, it's excited for it.
Cool. So just tell us, for those who may not know who you are, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I am a coach, certified personal trainer as well. I am a pro natural bodybuilder. So what I do essentially is I help clients, mainly who are in natural bodybuilding, who want to compete. Doesn't really matter what sort of level you are at as well. And again, helping other clients with general health and fitness. That's pretty much what I do, predominantly online. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it.
Cool. And how long you've been a coach for?
Well, so since I've registered my business would be 4 years in May this year coming. But I've kind of always been doing coaching on the side for a very long time. So I'll probably say about coming up to about 6-7 years now.
Okay.
I would be doing that now for, yeah.
Oh, nice. And what were you sort of doing before you got into coaching?
Doing estate agency, property sales. I mean, that was good. I was in there for about 5 years, did relatively well. So yeah, just kind of did that and then literally just transition over to what I'm doing now. So yeah.
Okay. And would you say that some of the skills and traits that you developed in the estate agency helped you as a coach?
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, one of the benefits working for corporate business is that they throw a lot of training at you. So I implemented a lot of the training in terms of client service, even setting up business plan and how you break it down, how you look at KPIs. So that's more of the business side of things. And, sort of going fully self-employed, I've adapted a lot of the skills which I've acquired, which help massively. Absolutely. So again, from client services, setting up business plan to how you move forward and to literally have structure and sort of an idea in terms of what you want to do and how you'd actually develop a business as well. So
okay, cool. So how did you actually get into coaching?
I mean, I love training in general. So, I mean, for me, it was just, after work, just go in there, just to let off some steam, hang out with the mates. But, essentially at the same time, we were training like really hard. And then, I just thought to myself, actually, let me just, do a competition. And the competition actually started off where I was into powerlifting and my body weight, got up to like 110 kilos. I think it was the biggest I've ever been. Wow. And I thought, wow, actually, I need to lose some weight. Now, how am I going to actually commit to lose weight? And I don't know. So I just thought to myself, let me just do a charity. And then literally did a charity to lose weight. Didn't place anything like that in the show, but it's something silly like 10 weeks was like 25 kilos. Wow. So it was horrendous. But again, very, very good eye opener for me in terms of what I wanted to do. And then again, went on to the next year and compete, obviously much better starting position. And just basically said to myself, actually, I want to be, I want to see how far I can take this. And that's when I really started, stripping down the nutrition and the calories and the difference between them. And then this went into self-prep. Did pretty good, I would say. And then literally from the local guys, you being one of them, saying about, oh, can you help me to do a show? And yeah, that's pretty much how I got into it from, my experience from doing it, and others wanted to get involved. And I just thought, okay, cool. Let's do it.
Oh, nice. And how long were you training before you actually started competing? And what was your training like?
Training, I mean, when I first competed, I was 24, I think 24 going on 25, I believe. So I've always been into training, always been into sports and athletics, and because I could not further my career in athletics due to injury, I just started going to the gym with mates, and then just got really strong and just really good at it. So I'll probably started lifting from about 15, 16.
Okay.
And then really sort of home into nutrition with training, kind of, the age at when I first competed, and I kind of took that on and just widened my knowledge for the experience side of things as well, with the nutrition side of things as well.
Okay, and sort of touch on what was the sort of style of training you were doing in that period?
Yeah, it was like what you call today is a bro split, because I was taken to the gym by Simon Paris, actually, me and Tyler, when we were in school, and he used to take us down the gym. He was in an apprenticeship with Simon Paris as a barber, and we were hanging out all the time. And he just like, oh, oops, you want to come to the gym? And we just started going to TNT. And the style of training, it was, we would do chest separately with biceps, chest with triceps, legs if we ever wanted to do legs, and then shoulders with triceps as well. So it was kind of like a bro split, and it was just literally just the 3 sets, do your 10 to 12 reps, and then just try to get strong as possible. So that literally was the training. And then as I got older, again, we're talking about 15, 16, as I got older, I just wanted to get really strong at all of it, with just eating whatever I want, no sort of nutritional value towards the training side of things as well, but it's just the lift. And that was a setup, 3-4 times a week, just go in there, lift as heavy as you can, and that was it. Literally that was it. It was more fun rather than trying to get everyone. You can see everyone on, well, the ones who I follow on social media and my algorithms follow, it's just like everyone takes it way too serious, if they want to compete, that is. And the fun element and the factor of it is just diminishing, as the sport progresses. And that's one thing I missed when I was training, is the fun part of it. And you still make good gains, you still do the hard stuff, you still make good gains, but now everyone's coming with like logbooks, and want to do this thing where they want to do the most optimal training and trying this and new movements, and and then for me, what I realized, that creates a lot of subconscious anxiety to clients. They don't actually know, because what they're doing now is they're thinking so much and so hard in the training, and when they have to, for example, do a leg session, is it like, okay, cool, I got a hack squat to do, and I need to do this amount of numbers. They're thinking about it. Yes, passion, they're thinking about it because they want to accomplish it, but there's a lot of anxiety that comes with it. It's just kind of, oh, what if I fail, and I don't know if I can do it, but I need to do it, and that's sort of self-pressure. Whereas I've never had that when when we were we're talking about 2005, 2006, and none of that. We just go in, we have fun, and we just grew.
I mean, how do you deal with gym anxiety? I hear a few people say, they get anxiety when they go to the gym, self-conscious about people looking at them, and typically a lot of female clients that I usually have, they usually say that they struggle with sort of gym anxiety. What would your advice be for people?
So like, if you're looking at the gyms now, so the gyms now on social media, now it's a big thing now where, of course, you'd have the more seasoned, the more experienced lifters, and all you see on Instagram is really good form, really good lifters, and someone who's never lifted before is always going to try and compare themselves to someone who they look up to, and is always that kind of am I good enough to actually be in a gym? And when they are, ultimately they're seeing there are other pages who are correcting people's form and telling people they're doing this thing wrong and making fun of them. So they're in that kind of 50-50. They're seeing, yes, the good trainers, and then ultimately they see people who are essentially taking a mick of other people, and they're just kind of in a position where now just like everyone around them is like big and jacked, and all these women with like small waists and big legs, and for the average if we talk in female case now, is that not sure if they're doing the right thing, and it can be off-putting. So typically what if you can train with someone One that takes off a lot of the stress. Again, have that fun element and that fun factor as well. Having a coach for accountability. If you don't know what you're doing, we're blessed with social media. You can literally outreach to 2, 3, 4 people, see what they offer. You're going to get a feel for someone, what they're doing. You're going to be able to scroll through their work and see what they're doing. And you're going to have a slight idea in terms of, okay, cool, I will click with this coach better. Hire a coach, save yourself all the grief. Get your training done so you have it, so you know exactly what you're doing. Again, that then makes you think, right, I'm going to the gym, I know what I'm doing, rather than what shall I do, and is this person looking at me? And having someone you train with, again, just takes on you guys to just kind of focus in that little bubble as well. And then eventually with the gym, again, a massive positive, you do get that confidence as well. You do get self-confidence, you know what you're doing, you're aware, you start making friends in the gym and stuff, etc. And it becomes, more of a community, but it can be very off-putting. Imagine you've never done a gym before and you're mid to late 20s and you think, right, I need to get in the gym for a wedding, and you're looking at social media, you're looking at all these gyms just busy. How on earth are you going to be pumped and psyched to go in there by yourself and do it? And I think definitely answer to your question, I think having a coach to understand you and just kind of explain everything and the steps, and if you can, for me, the big one is having someone to train with. Just have you guys in that bubble and just take out a lot of that sort of stress and anxiety going into the gym as well.
I mean, so you as a coach, you've had quite some success in terms of within the natural bodybuilding coaching scene. Do you want to talk us through some of those successes?
So there's quite a few. I think the biggest part of the success that I've had, again, we're talking about natural bodybuilding with clients, British titles, having clients then into professional, from amateur to professional ranks as well. One is because I know that I'm passionate, and then sometimes I have to take myself away from that. And what I mean by that is sometimes I would always treat the client like if I'm me, and that's wrong. Because what I mean by that's wrong is because I would battle myself. I'm starving in terms of, when it's time to do something, I would do it. That's no problem at all. Like for me, give me all the hard work. And then sometimes when I'm addressing, relaying messages to a client, it's very easy to think, why don't you just do it? But not everyone's like me. So I think is understanding the client 100% definitely makes it a lot easier. And I'm just passionate. And again, what I mean is that I have to kind of step back as the passion takes over, and I just kind of want to do it all for them. But then ultimately it's their journey, their experience. They need to understand what's required. And again, it's up to me in terms of how I deliver the message. And, as the longer I do coaching, the less it's just giving someone a diet plan and a training program. It becomes a lot of human psychology, because, someone in the off season, or you can relay a message to them. Yep, they will continue doing that variable, compared to the deep, darkest corners of prep. You can never really address that message the same how you did in off season, because again, we all know that you're hungry, you're tired, you're very easily snappy, and just the way how you word things, make them aware that you're understanding from their perspective as well, will then make a massive difference. And I see a massive shift in my coaching from doing that. And why I say that is because now I have, confidently, the clients that I put on stage every year, they all have that very good sort of tidy presentation and that look, that really good look about them. And that's down to the coach's passion, knowledge, and again, most importantly, is how you can communicate messages across with your clients as well. So I think from that, I was able to understand that from a very early, from an early start. And again, answer to one of the first things we spoke about at the start of the podcast was about, my previous job help, and that is obviously all part of it as well. I think that's will probably be a big part of the success. And then from there, just got some British title winners in 2019, 2020, then 2021, my first pro natural for the BNBF, which is a big federation, in my opinion. for natural bodybuilders. And then last 2022 as well, another one. That being said, I have worked with clients in different federations who have obtained pro cards as well. But again, for me, it's just looking at the level and quality of work, which I was able to do. And again, the only reason why I've done it is because the more you understand an individual, the more likelihood you're able to address messages that they are still able to, tick those boxes as they're going further. So yeah, I think understanding client with passion, I think it becomes an easier job for, never too easy, but it's easier for you to, sway them in the right direction to success.
Yeah, cool. So you mentioned, I think last year you said you had someone who achieved a pro card, and was it 2 years before that someone else?
Yeah, before that as well. Yeah.
So how has your coaching style, would you say, changed to the point where you're now making British champions, pro card winners, versus for when you first started? So how has that transition?
How has that shifted? Firstly, everyone knows it's down to the genetic capacity of the individual. As coaches, we are blessed to work with people who have, God-given talents. And it's just, a matter of having those individuals approach me, to trust me with their work, to take them from A to B. And I would probably say the shift between them is I've learned to take more bio data from an individual, on their weekly check-ins, and really understanding an individual makes a massive difference. And that's probably what I've done more so over the last 2 to 3 years. I would take some information, but knowing the information which I have now is a lot more. It kind of prompts them and force them to answer certain questions, so they may feel comfortable or uncomfortable asking them. Either or, we're still able to get some information to then help them get from A to B. So I think that's probably the biggest shift: understanding your client, have that relationship. And then you are able to, with the experience as a coach, you should be able to pinpoint them from A to B. So I'll say it's the never take away from obviously their genetical potential, and adherence as well. And as a coach, when you got a good vibe with an athlete, you're able to understand them. You're able to put things in place that they're still able to tick those boxes as the weeks and the months go by. I think that you should have a very successful athlete.
Okay, no, cool. What would you say is because obviously you have clients who compete, and you also have clients who don't compete. What's the difference between somebody who goes to the gym, just who doesn't have any intentions of competing, versus somebody who goes to the gym who has the intentions of competing? What's the difference there?
So the difference between when I have a consult with a client, right, a potential client, it's very easy for someone to say, oh yeah, we can do this and do this and do this. We get you from A to B. Yeah, no, fantastic job, whatever. You get the client on. Now, a question I ask every single time is I need to understand their motivation for it. So what I mean by that is, okay, why do you want to compete? Or that's very simple. Okay, we can kind of troll into that. And some people, majority of athletes actually, been training for a long time. They just want to get on stage, see how they get on stage. But they're very competitive nature, because I always ask, oh, what sport did you do before? And 10 out of 10 times, they've actually come from a very competitive background, from some sort of sporting background, or that's pretty much it. Okay, so the ones who are not into bodybuilding, they have a motivation. For example, it's a holiday. Okay, so I need to extract that from them. It's a holiday, it's a wedding, but what I would say is there's no differences between them apart from actually the group stepping on stage and the group's not. But they have something in similar, which is they have a motivation for why they want to, essentially, get on a fat loss phase, or get on a muscle gain for, sort of more longer term goal. So I think answer to your question is no difference between them apart from a group goes on stage, and a group will have a different motive as opposed to why they're coaching. Sorry, why they're on the coaching for fat loss or whatever it may be.
Do you ever sometimes feel like ever have that feeling of you can't be bothered to go to the gym?
Of course, we're human. Absolutely. a lot of variables are taken into place, and this is where I really bore my clients with we need to establish the difference between internal and external stress. External stress plays a massive part in terms of you could easily say I can't be bothered. Internal stress, we can look at it, we can home into that, we can manipulate that, right? External stress is going to happen every day. For example, I'll give you a thing. I work, so if I work 9 to 5, I finish work at 5 o'clock. I have a half an hour before I get my train. It's now 6 o'clock. Train journey is 6:30. I'm in the gym at 6:30, 6:45, right? And then you get your training done, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever that may be. Go home and see your other half or your family, what that be, right? Now, manager asks you to work last minute or to do some extra bits and bobs before you then miss the train. You then essentially starting later than normal. And then again, there's always that. And it's a little bit difficult for people who work, right? Because people who are office-based rather than a little bit more mobile, because it's that little part there can stress you out. You then thinking all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to go to the gym on time. I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to see my friends and family or whatever your evening may be. And that instantly puts you in, you look at the time, you got your training, like, it's 8:30. Normally I'm finished. Mm-hmm. I'm a little bit hungry because I stayed back late, so I didn't get a meal. Let me go home first, try and get a meal, and then I'll go back to the gym at 9:30. 9:15 comes, you look at the time, you've already done settle. That's just one example. It's very easy for that to happen as well. So for me, it's definitely down to workload. Sometimes the recovery is not good enough and we just really feel lethargic and draggy. Especially in the off season, it just feels like a drag. Okay, then we're talking about bodybuilding here for another example. And then sometimes you just want a break. I mean, you can tell the social media, oh yeah, I want to do this full on, bodybuilding, hardcore, all this, that. It's yin and yang. It's got to give. There's that element of balance. There's a lot of people there's no such thing as balance if you want to be on top of the world. Yeah, but you have to look after your mental state as well. So I think definitely if you can have less external stress, which again is going to happen anyway regardless. I think that makes and that contributes a massive factor into I can't be bothered to train because sometimes I'll be doing work and I say, right, I'm going to train at this time, and then I look at the time and I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and I'm actually having to force myself to go to the gym, even though I'm not competitive at the moment. Have to force myself to go to the gym, and that's just life, and we're human. Not every day you're going to wake up and want to be driven to do something unless the goal's right there, unless it's very hot. But right now at the moment, for me personally, I'm focusing on my client setup, so competing this year. So I have to do a lot of work, and essentially, yes, they would always come first. But then ultimately, life just gets in the way. Just, these things do happen. But I think, yeah, you can't, if you are, fair enough. But when life, external factors come into play, it's very difficult to try and handle that.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously you're kind of getting ready to start prepping some of your clients for this coming season. What advice would you give to anyone who is, like I said, planning on maybe taking that step into starting a bodybuilding season? What advice would you give to them?
It's like the example we're given, for a female, potential female client, or who wants to go into the gym. Just outreach to speak to a few coaches. They would have their methods in terms of what you need to do. The first thing I would say is speak to a coach, and then they should then allow you to have the opportunity to speak in terms of what you're looking to achieve. See where you are currently. Age, yes, definitely plays a part, and then this should be able to give you an estimation in terms of a roadmap in terms of what you're looking for. So, for example, if I have someone who wants to go to open bodybuilding and they approach me and they're like, 6'2", for example, but the average is around about 72 kilos, and they want to do bodybuilding, they probably will be looking at putting on some more size, and then going into a show. So what I mean by that is, if a client comes to you and say, yeah, cool, I'll prep you, and he's 72 kilos and 6'2", you're probably not going to do that well against the guys who have been putting in the work, gross, have some muscle, a little bit shorter than you, and way more than you in terms of muscular mass as well. And I think that's a massive part in terms of why you should speak to a coach, because then this should then map out for you where you currently are, what you should do, and then essentially give you the best advice. And they will take away they will take away all that stress and worry, and then they would then set up your nutrition, set up your training program, and then once you keep dotting the I's and crossing the T's, it will then get you to essentially that thought of, oh, I'm thinking of going to hit stage, to end up being on stage as well. So speaking to someone a lot more experienced in the industry will make a massive difference in terms of giving you those guidelines.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the biggest caveats we always hear in nutrition, and especially when it comes to fat loss,
yes,
it's carbs are bad for you. So what's your thoughts on carbs when it comes to weight loss?
It's like everything. Weight loss, so having carbs and you don't move and you don't train is bad for you. You're going to get fat, right? You're training hard. Your nutrition is okay. So okay, but your macros, so your fats and your proteins are good. Now, the preferred source of energy the body will utilize is carbohydrates, right? Now, it's that fine line of understanding what a client needs. And me as a coach, I tend to go with the higher fat, obviously subject to there's no sort of health issues, diabetes 1 or 2, whatever. But, if they're, in good health, the preferred source of energy is you're building the body, you're working the muscles, you're burning glycogen, you want to replenish those glycogen stores as fast as possible. So the carbohydrates, depending on what type of carbs that you choose at the right time, will make a difference. Yes, in terms of carbohydrates throughout the day as well, I do look at, sort of more of the lower GI carbohydrates and then kind of just ramp it up a little bit around in terms of the acting, how fast acting it is around the training. And then again, more carbohydrates to settle as well. You will not be able to perform very good on low carbohydrates or no carbohydrates when it comes to fat loss. One of the biggest, and it's not really spoken of much, is everyone thinks that cardio burns fat. Resistance training is the most effective for burning fat. So if you train hard by having the right amount of carbohydrates, you're going to lose fat. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So, yes, cardio is a tool to help speed up your metabolic rate. But ultimately, if you can get into the gym, resistance train, that's going to be a lot more effective and you're going to look better for it rather than just having this kind of like this skinny fat look with just, no carbs and you're starving all the time. And, you need to feed the muscle. Your muscle is essentially what you want to have and how you want to look good. Why not feed it?
Mm-hmm. I hear a lot because you mentioned about, I guess, the idea of resistance training for fat loss. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of females who they think by lifting weights or resistance training that they're going to get bulky and muscly. What's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that as a natural lifter athlete, it's going to be near enough impossible it's going to be extremely hard for you to try and look bulky or manly or whatever. That's not how it works. Carbohydrates feeds the muscle. Your muscle will be a lot more toned. You will look better for it as well. Again, muscle in masculine or feminine, it makes you look more masculine or more feminine once you have muscle. Again, we're not talking about anything on PEDs for a female, but a female who lifts decent amount of body fat. And again, I have to be careful how I say this as well. Decent amount of body fat percentage, and it trains hard. Okay, we're talking about the female who trains hard. You're not going to look bulky. As I said, it's going to be very hard. And again, you will not lose any sort of feminine touch, if that, so to say. So I think I have female clients who are on over 3,000 calories and looks like a female. Mm-hmm. Eating a lot of carbohydrates, over 500 gram carbs a day. Even with my females who are competing as well in the cut, they're starting off, obviously with the off season, they're starting off on very high foods, and essentially that's what they need to have to to fuel what they're what they set out to do, which is jump on stage. But I think for a female female who's not competing, carbohydrates, good resistance training, the difference how they would look, and they would burn more body fat as well because they can train harder with the fuel. they're not going to look manly unless they take drugs. It doesn't work like that.
Interesting. I mean, what type of training do you do now? Is it bro split or sort of push pull legs? How you split up your training currently?
So my particular training at the moment is coming back from an injury, I do bro split. One, I enjoy it. Secondly, as well, my recovery allows me to hit those muscle groups, once in seven days, and it just works for me. Now I do have clients who do push pull legs. I couldn't do push pull, so I'll do deadlifts, rest, and then do legs. And if I've got hip hinge in legs, so like a barbell RDL, it's not going to happen because I'll still be sore from 3 days ago. And if I'm like a squatting pattern, my lower back is still going to be fried from the pull session. But you can say, oh yeah, but you cannot have a hinge on a pull day and stuff, etc. Look, for me, I don't recover enough to do push pull legs. That's like hitting legs, twice in a 4 to 5 day cycle. I just would not recover because but look at your volume, and I train hard enough in the bro split. I enjoy it, and if you look at the top natural pro bodybuilders, they train in just have legs, shoulders, back, chest, maybe chucking some arms and some lateral delts, and that's typically my split. So yeah, the bro split.
Okay, interesting. So you mentioned obviously earlier that you are obviously a professional natural bodybuilder. Mm-hmm. Talk us through what was it like in terms of going from an amateur bodybuilder to a professional bodybuilder?
Yeah, so the actual feeling itself from accomplishing my dream goal, which is to be a pro natural bodybuilder in the federation, or to be a DFAC pro, it's unexplainable. Imagine you tomorrow actually hitting your dream, something which you dream about, and you're actually in it. It just feels surreal. It takes a very long time for that to settle, but that was amazing. That was indescribable. Now, just all the hard work, the graft, the time, the sacrifice which I've done, and for it come to fruition has just been fantastic. Now, from being pro now, so the transition was fantastic. Now, being pro, I unfortunately got injured like a few weeks after turning pro, and there's been a lot of setbacks. I mean, the biggest thing for me was the mental part of things, because I'm not able to train because my shoulders is bad and I couldn't press, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I just finished on top of the world, I'm not getting my gains. But it doesn't work like that. Obviously now, 4 years in, it doesn't work like that. But obviously mentally, with the injury, it's been very tough to not be able to perform, specific movements and to train how I would love to train, due to injury. So that's been mentally challenging, being a pro. And I recently competed after 4 years last year. And it was out of 7 or 8 of us, can't remember, but I didn't place in the top 4. And for me, I'm happy with that. Okay, I'm happy with that because I know that I've done a very aggressive show, with not being able to do legs because I snapped my IT and my TFL. Okay, so it's pains. I couldn't do any sort of squatting patterns and anything like that. And it was just to do it, because I believe that I could have, done it, but it just wasn't good enough. And I think that the judges placed everyone where they needed to be. So as I said, I'm happy with that. But again, it's been very difficult being, a pro. The mental battle from, having the injury, and then again, another one just before prep, not being able to train legs. I think I did like 3 actual leg sessions throughout the season. But no, it's been tough. But then that's the pro ranks. You're at a different level now where you're against, other pros and world champions. It is always going to be hard. So I say from that side, from the mental side of things, with the injury, it's been tough. And then I've just learned to accept, it is what it is. So yeah.
Cool. And in terms of like natural bodybuilders, who would you say you kind of look up to within the natural bodybuilding?
So natural bodybuilders has always been David Kay and Nathan Williams. They're both the FAC pros. I can remember competing as amateurs and see these guys as pros, and I actually said to myself, "This how on earth I kind of, stand with these guys," and I was actually able to do that in 2022, so last year. So that was a big part of me still carry on with the prep, considering the setbacks I had, and it was a great experience. But I would say David K. Nathan Williams, I mean, mind-blowing physiques, man. They're just out of this world.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I mean, I've seen them, early doors of like when I competed as well. They got obviously fantastic physiques. So
phenomenal.
So obviously you mentioned kind of before about, you had obviously a few setbacks. You mentioned about obviously the difficulty with sort of transitioning from amateur to professional bodybuilding. The question I really want to know is how do you stay motivated to keep going on in spite of hardships, in spite of understanding how difficult it's going to be? You do mention about injuries and stuff like that. What is it that keeps you going and keeps you driving forward?
It's reason I'm a pro because I love doing it, right? I love doing bodybuilding. And again, I do want to compete, and I do have a dream of, winning shows as a pro. And that's that, that's the fight. That's that still staying motivated, right? So it's all about, doing what you can, understanding that it's going to go away. But again, if I, give up or have never tried, I would never know. And that's not really a dream, because the dream is to, essentially win these shows, to accomplish what I want to accomplish as a person, not what anyone's saying or what I should do. And that was my light to, that was that, that little bit of flame in me still, just to keep going, because, you can always try and then know where you are supposed to never try and have no idea what's happened, and then essentially you can be doing something different, not really enjoying life. And a big part of bodybuilding, it structures my life. I feel accomplished when I eat my 6 to 7 meals a day. I've hit my training sessions. I feel accomplished as a person. But I think to stay motivated, you've got to have that drive. And if the passion's not there, if you're not passionate about something, you're gonna lose. It's not gonna happen. It is not going to happen. And I'm a very driven individual, and I'm very harsh on myself in terms of me accomplishing goals. So just my personality was having to just I needed some little bit of light in there to get it done. And the toughest battles are for for people who are climbing on it. The higher you climb, the harder it is, the harder it gets, and that's just life.
What advice would you give to somebody who wants to get into the online coaching realm? Maybe they've done a bit of PTing for a few years, and they're thinking, I want to get into the online coaching scene. They want to get clients' results. Or what advice would you give for them?
I would say, again, fortunately for me, I came from a sales background. So as I mentioned before, it was all about setting up business plans. It was all about looking in terms of what the economy is doing, in terms of looking at what the area is doing, what I'm doing PT, who's the coach, what they're doing, are they busy, are they having positive feedback and stuff, etc. So I did my research personally, but there's so many other avenues you could go down, like hiring like a business mentor. I think it's definitely worth the money if you have no idea where to start. And that's probably what I would say, is just get a mentor, okay? And they will help you set up the processes, because what a lot of people don't actually know with that transition from, personal training going into online is that it's a whole different ballgame, and it's not as easy as it is, not as easy as it seems. So again, having a mentor to explain to you about the processes, how you would then get clients, how you would keep clients, how you would package whatever you're trying to offer to potential clients, that will make a massive difference, is the first thing I would say. Secondly, as well, you got to practice what you preach. You got to be about it. You've got to keep learning. I personally have a massive list on my phone. I'm constantly trying to learn about new things which is out there as well, because things change all the time. And then social media, like social media is massive. You know, you post something which is informative, free advice for someone. People are going to keep watching your stuff to see what what you're about, what you promote, and you might just get that DM or that message that says, "Oh, hi. So would you say that doing this 3 times a week is better than doing this?" And then you get into conversation, and before you know it, you have a meeting with an individual and say, "Actually, yeah, I would like to do all this stuff," and you get yourself a client. But that's probably the best to do. If you try to do it by yourself, you're gonna have to do a lot of work yourself, and it's gonna be very daunting and off-putting, and you're gonna be posting a lot of unnecessary stuff. Is probably what is the best thing to say, and you're not really gonna be getting that hit. But I would say keep learning, a business mentor, because there's so many online coaches out there now, and if you don't have a business mentor, how to get it up, you probably find it extremely hard. And just social media. Social media is probably what I would like to say. But and obviously you need your qualifications, and you need to be able to show your progression with clients who you've had for PT, your personal training clients, and you're able to show them that you can get a client in shape, because ultimately people want to pay you to get them in shape.
Yeah, I've had people who they've inquired, for example, about online coaching, or some people hear that you're an online coach, and then say, for example, you tell them, what you charge and what you do. They don't seem to get it in regards to,
sure,
they understand, well, I can go to a personal trainer or I can go to a gym.
Yeah.
Why would I pay an online coach X, Y, and Z?
Sure.
And they don't even physically in person
Yeah.
train me. So what exactly is online coaching? So
it's actually quite a good question. It's a very common question which is asked in the industry. Online coaching it's relatively, it's not new, but it's relatively old. It's relatively new to be out there for people, right? So you tell somebody that online coach is like, well, what do you mean? Like, do you mentor people? Well, essentially, yes, that's what we're doing, right? So the difference really between them, and the reason why people would ask, and is for someone who's been training, for example, 2, 3, 4 years, got a good understanding in training, have some sort of idea in nutrition, but they want to take themselves to the next level. Those are people who are like, right, okay, cool, dude, I don't need the one-to-one training. I'm pretty confident I can train by myself. If you need to see videos of me in the gym training, I can send that across. That's no problem. They basically need that online structure. They get their accountability. They check in once a week or twice a month, or whatever system that you have set up. So they're held accountable to make progression happen. One-to-one PT would be, for example, someone never stepped foot in a gym. They're like, right, okay, cool. If you put them on the online platform, they're like, well, what is a neutral press? No one tells me. But yes, you can have videos out there to teach a client. But what's easier for someone who's never stepped foot in a gym, has no idea, no experience about training, don't know anything about nutrition? You're probably going to need a personal trainer to begin with. Get that confidence, understand how to train. Then when you want to take up to a next notch where, your personal trainer will probably say, I can give you kind of an idea on nutrition, but you want someone to say, right, okay, cool. Let's capture all your data. This is what you need. This is your training. You know how to train. And let's just do this manually. Because again, to do this online, because again, you're confident, you know how to train. I don't need to see you in person when it comes to training. You follow these things, you got your training program, and you will, you get it done. So that's essentially what online coach does, is just help people get to the next level who are a little bit stuck in terms of what they need to do. And yes, they can help people who have never stepped foot in a gym, but they probably will need a personal trainer as well to begin with for a short time, just to understand how to train safely.
And another question we always get in the industry. One of the big debates: what's more important, training or nutrition?
Nutrition is probably about 95% on how you look. You can't out-train a bad diet. You can't. I do not care. You can't. People who show off on IG and say yes, they can do that. There are some genetic freaks out there, right? They can eat whatever and they just wouldn't grow an ounce of body fat, right? But for the average person like me, right, I need to eat nutritionally dense foods to look good. So nutrition is probably about, again, 90-95. Training, you're only training for an hour a day. So when you look at the grand scheme of things, you're eating essentially over when you wake up over 12 hours, as opposed to training, if you do the maths, it's how you look, right? You don't train for 11 hours and you don't eat for 1 hour unless you do intermittent fasting. But again, it's a whole different thing, and you can't even train for that long anyway. If you look at it, it's got to be the nutrition.
Yeah, I've always had that question being posed, and I think a lot of people nowadays are getting a little bit more clued on to the importance of nutrition, and sometimes it's because we're in the industry. Sometimes it's easy to think it's obvious, but there's a lot of people who don't necessarily, I guess, understand
the importance.
The importance of nutrition. So kind of as we're kind of beginning to wrap up, because again, like I mentioned before, the concept of the idea of the podcast is about motivated to lift. That you have an individual who's motivated, but they don't know what the next steps are to get them to lift or be in the next level. When we look at the definition of lift, is moving from one level to the next. So, for example, what advice would you give to a motivated individual who wants to get to the next level? Whether it's they want to get to the next level of their physique, or they want to get the next level of online coaching, or they want to get to the next level of
either lifting or business or studying or anything like that.
What would your advice be?
Also, keep doing what you're doing, and try to be the best at what you're doing. Literally, and that's what I mentioned before about as a if you want to try, I keep learning. You have to keep learning. So you keep learning, you keep beating on your craft, and therefore you're going to get better. If you stay motivated and you keep working hard, it will then result. Okay, there's always a whatever your process is, there's always a product. So if you keep learning, so you keep staying motivated, you keep doing what you need to do, you keep surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded in terms of what they want to achieve. That's why people have study dates. It's they go to the library, all three of them, they don't say anything for 4 hours, and then they come out. But they're surrounding themselves with those type of people, like-minded business people, business entrepreneurs, business opportunities. Again, they're doing what they're doing, looking, research, economy, see what they're doing, speaking to people, see what's happening, doing research. They're trying to acquire new skills. Again, they're still motivated to be better. And the better you are at something, the likelihood, as I said, you're going to succeed. So I would say, keep doing what you're doing, and have a goal as well. Have a set goal, to be something, to achieve something, whether it be financially, whether it be academically. Have that goal. Once you have your goal and have a little bit of a sight in terms of what you want to achieve, just get better at what you're doing, and your process will be a result into a product.
Okay, cool. All right. So, where can people find you if they want to follow your progress and stuff like that? Where can they find you?
On Instagram is probably my most active social media, which is Opio _DFAC_pro. And that's my Instagram. I do have a Facebook as well. And YouTube, Twitter. I've got all of them, but you're probably going to find a lot more informative information on there. Would be my my Instagram, and then again I am active on Facebook as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we'll obviously put all those handles, if obviously you're watching on YouTube, they'll be down in the description, and obviously we'll put it in the show notes on the audio podcast. So, but thanks so much, obviously, for coming in this time round to do the podcast. Obviously, there is still so much more we can go into, and I'm sure at a later date we'll have another one on the road. But thanks again.
No, thanks for having me, man.
And it's been a pleasure, man. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you.
All right,
it's
no
my
problem.
pleasure.
All right, take care.
See you.